Hello everyone and welcome to this morning 1v1 match between Morgan and Ichbineinkonto. I loaded in a little bit late, as just happens occasionally, unfortunately. Today, we're going to be joined by Philothanic, which I didn't actually ask ahead of time. Do you prefer Philothanic or Philothanic? Hello, welcome.
It's Philothanic, that's okay. I see a really nice scavenger spot directly south to the colony. It's by some water, it's by some silicon, it's a little bit far from the aluminum, but not too far. Basically everything a growing scavenger HQ needs. That's the first one that jumps out at me. Iron's a little bit low on this map, steel's a little bit high. There's only some medium tiles maybe you could get away with. There's
scavenger HQ has been found.
There's another scavenger spot on the top I've not seen yet.
Yeah, and that's a nice one. I actually think I prefer the one you spotted in a lot of ways. It's true that it didn't have as great access to aluminum, but it had some, and it was just so close to the silicon and water. But this is going to be a decent spot nonetheless. This is going to let you get off to a really fast start with that adjacent aluminum and adjacent carbon. And we've seen some games in these 1v1s where that fast start is literally all you need to go ahead and clean up. So we'll have to see how it goes from here.
Morgan deciding to found with an expansive right in the middle of that silicon water aluminum patch. The only thing that he's going to struggle with is where is his iron?
It's to the west. Okay, he's got some northwest. It's not too far away. He should be all right, but I am a little nervous about this. The going for the triple steel start should work out okay for him, though.
He takes the
iron
upgrade.
Started off at 20, 120 for steel, so he should be fine. I am a little nervous about that upgrade, though. Okay, there he goes. Steel mills came back online. Sometimes you got to be careful with that. There was a chance that he didn't have cash after upgrading to actually buy the iron to keep his steel mills going.
Right.
But not this time, which is good for him. He's got to keep those churning out to keep up with his scavenger off to a pretty quick start. But with electrolysis reactors not making all that much money.
No, electrolysis reactors are not making that much money right now. Iron's where it's at, but that won't last very long since Morgan will have enough iron. Looking at the rest of the prices on the board for Konto, other than going into some water, which he is shipping in right now, there's not a lot of profits to be made on World.
Yeah, Ichbineinkonto was making an effort to... Ooh, I'm not actually sure about that EMP. It's a good idea, freezing out some steel, but Ichbineinkonto was actually already bought into some iron, trying to keep that price high. He sold out of it by now. But there was the opportunity here to just EMP out the iron. And then you're at a point where your opponent, well, his steel mills are going to shut down anyway because they're just not going to be profitable in a minute. I really would have liked to see that iron EMP rather than the steel.
EMP out the iron, buy into it, force Morgan to buy some more iron off of you, sell it when the iron comes back online, make a little bit of profit.
Yep, just a nice little move. I like the idea, though. I'm just glad to see that both players have already gotten into the black market a little bit. This is something you'll often see people a little slow into, and they'll get punished for it. So hopefully we'll see a little better use of it from here on out. But it's good ideas from the start.
Konto gets his first to HQ3, which is what you want to see as a scavenger. He immediately drops down a geothermal plant, which is connected to his base. So if power prices increases, superconductor is a possibility. Power has not yet climbed up that high, but it's almost at $100.
Yeah, it's getting there. It's been a little bit of a slow start on the power with the scavenger who threw down. He did throw down reactors, but I believe power started at 20 this game, unless I'm highly mistaken.
I think it was low.
Yeah, not too surprising to see it taking a little while to become a serious issue. Both players should be able to get plenty of power online before their debt ticks up too high.
Extra claim auction going on with claims on the market. Black market will be interesting to see how high this extra claim goes for. In this case, players are trading cash for debt and a black market cooldown by bidding on this auction.
Yeah, 24,000 is pretty reasonable. That's about what I would have expected that to go for. No real surprise there. Interesting, we've got farms coming down for Itch. That's going to be just fine. Or Konto. I'm not sure what he would prefer to be called by. But this is going to let him easily get into maybe some glass production if he would like, or just secure some silicon. All these little details he has now that he's got 2 claims available. It makes it a lot easier to get into an additional secondary resource.
Right, this is a glass colony, so as we can see, the price pressure on glass is steadily rising. The colony is using 1.2 glass per second. Morgan is the first one to move into some glass kilns. These will make him some nice profits and will give him the resources he needs to upgrade to HQ level 4.
Absolutely. Also worth noting that Morgan earlier, when he put down additional steel mills to make up for his being EMP'd, he had placed them on top of the better silicon in the area. There's a medium tile wrapped up in all these lows. He just made sure to get a nice little triangle of that silicon claim for himself to allow for this easy transition later. And the nukes are going to start raining down. Morgan going ahead and hitting, I believe that was a low elemental quarry.
Yes. Low or medium, I think it was a low.
Yeah. Which, understandable nuke. You're trying to hit your opponent's carbon, but I'm not sure I like it all that much, mostly because it is adjacent to his base. These are going to be very easy to move around, and he has additional carbon not far away. I maybe would have rather seen nukes target something like the water pumps.
Right, those water pumps are undefended. Both players know everything's undefended because no goons have been purchased right now. Only offensive black market items have been purchased. And we see the response to that nuke was an EMP by Kanto on Morgan's farms, glass, and silicon.
Yep, should work out just fine for him. We did see double glass kiln come out of Kanto at some point to use up his 2 claims for HQ level 3. No big surprise there. And the fight of the power has begun. Morgan actually avoiding power at HQ 3, which has let that price continue to rise pretty steadily, which means these mutinies and these geotherms have become very, very important for Kanto. If he can keep Morgan out of power and keep this price high, Morgan might start getting into some trouble.
Yes, one thing I do want to note right now is Kanto is claiming a high silicon all the way near the bottom of the map. So
that's interesting.
Be quite some shipping distance for that silicon, especially with fuel at 121 and rising.
Yeah, I'm not sure I like this, mostly because my big argument against this is that there are extra claims available on the black market. And so even if you do have to put down maybe 2 silicon claims this game, you want a low and a low, there is potentially some value to that because you can just spend 60 seconds of black market time on that extra claim along with a little bit of cash rather than all this debt you're going to be gaining over the course of a potentially long game. 'Cause it looks like we're heading that direction. Nobody's really falling out immediately on this fuel.
I am not a fan of this network virus play right now. First of all, no holograms have been purchased, which means there are none to find with the network virus. And second of all, the network virus will keep on buildings that are unprofitable. Morgan doesn't have any unprofitable buildings, and if he did have any unprofitable buildings, it'd be these glass, which are kind of borderline at the edge. He has plenty of silicon income, so it doesn't matter whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm not sure that the network virus was... Maybe being a little bit more patient with that would have been a bit more effective. Interesting that Morgan's chosen to leave his electrolysis specifically separated from his base, but next to his water. That's just it's not a play you'll see very often, but it will allow him to convert debt into cash very effectively if he simply chooses to sell down these stores as they hit his headquarters.
Morgan finally deciding that power at just under 200 is something he cannot ignore for the entire game, going into 2 wind turbines, but he's still sitting at sea levels of debt with 136k debt.
Yes, I'm very concerned about this debt. We did just have that interest tick knocking him down even further. 22,000 is what he picked up in that in terms of debt. And I'm a little bit worried about that. I mean, sea levels, 136,000, you're getting dangerously close to that D bond rating. We're going to get locked out of a pretty valuable black market. In particular, we're looking at EMPs, nukes, mutinies, and then, of course, goon squads in order to keep yourself alive against all those valuable tools. Not so sure that that's a good amount of debt for Morgan to be in.
In the short term, Morgan's decided that he actually doesn't want any water pumps. Just going to use his stockpile of 300 water, convert those water pumps into electrolysis reactors, and ship everything a little bit.
Ooh, this is aggressive out of Kanto here. He's not going to be able to get to the buy, but he is going to force Morgan to commit some more cash to defending himself. Maybe just get in the way of other things Morgan would like to do, like pick up an extra claim, knock out these pirates, all kinds of little things you can change with a play like this.
Another extra claim, Morgan doesn't have much room to bid on this, so Kanto should be able to pick it up for a decent price. But while we're waiting for this auction, I want to point out that Kanto has a optimization center, which he is using right now to optimize. Right now, just one tick on
Fuel, it looks like.
And it looks
Yeah.
like it's sitting unused. With chem so cheap, I think, and on-world prices so high, I'd like to see this optimization center being used more.
Yeah, we definitely, if you're going to put this building down, that has to be running full-time in 1v1. Plenty of great things to optimize right now. You've got glass, looks really good with the warehouses all over the colony. Colony's not interested in almost any other building besides these warehouses. And once again, fuel going to be very difficult for Kanto in a lot of ways. He's shipping pretty far for both water and silicon as he opted for the best tiles available rather than the close tiles that were available. And so it's going to need to keep this thing rolling.
Just to point out, Kanto's silicon mine is turned off. Would be making 92 a second using 80 fuel a second. Well, now 102.
Yeah, I think that's going to need to turn back on, honestly, if for no other reason than glass is potentially going to be very, very valuable long term. But I do understand turning it off for now in some ways, as it was really getting in the way of his fuel money. He was at one point making about 1/4 unit of fuel in profit per second from these reactors, and that's not particularly valuable.
So a little bit late, but Kanto just realized that Morgan, until this moment, had no water online. He bought up water, forcing Morgan's farm to turn off. Now noticing that Morgan has gone into water pumps again, has sold all that water, crashing down the price.
Interesting that Kanto has not gone for an HQ upgrade yet. It should be affordable for him pretty easily. It's possible this carbon is getting in his way, as he never actually added an additional carbon tile on HQ4. He did have the opportunity for that, and of course extra claims available on the market. Perhaps didn't want to just get an additional low that would have trace adjacency. It's understandable, but it feels like it's maybe getting in his way. Instead, pretending he can end the game on HQ4, I don't think that's going to work out well, even with Morgan at almost 200,000 debt.
No, it won't work out more. Morgan has more earning potential right now with that expansive claim bonus, and Kanto doesn't even have all of his claims. Kanto needs an additional $279,000 to make this buy, and I don't see it happening unless he upgrades to HQ5.
Yeah, and Morgan in particular, now that he's already 5, he can focus a lot of efforts on maybe paying down this debt if he would like to, or just simply attacking Kanto back. Prices are about even, and so Kanto should be a little cheaper to kill off than Morgan is with all of his claims at double rate right now, and forcing that defense to just keep slowing Kanto down to the point where he's not going to be able to stay in it. Now, letting a claim go for 8,000 though, that's the kind of mistake that could still potentially lose Morgan the game.
Well, previously he bid on a claim at 28,000, bumping him from C to D debt. This time he decided didn't want to make that mistake again, but made a mistake in the other direction, letting it go for too cheaply.
Yeah, we're looking at finding that nice middle ground, and unfortunately Morgan just not quite able to get to it for the moment. Nice EMP lands on a lot of food and glass of Morgan's, but Morgan just has so much food production right now. It doesn't look like it's going to slow him down too much. And Titan Lab's online. Morgan's already picked up virtual reality. Kanto has teleportation to help out with his fuel.
Yes, Kanto also upgrades to HQ5. I guess better late than never.
I'm a little concerned about this virtual reality, mostly because Morgan doesn't have a pleasure dome down yet. That's something you probably would want to resolve along with obtaining virtual reality. Still has 3 claims left to his name.
Yes, he will want to make use of those claims. Pleasure Dome seems obvious. He's going into a hologrammed Offworld. I don't think we've mentioned Offworld prices, but the prices themselves are pretty low right now.
Pretty low.
And
Yeah.
so's the profits.
Yeah, the Offworld's not looking like a really great tool for the moment. I'm a little concerned about some of the lack of water that Morgan's having to deal with right now because of these EMPs. Oh, there we go. Finally, it's coming back online, so it's just going to go ahead and sell down. And Morgan, I'm really not sure about this market, I gotta say. I don't like it. He did manage to get a goon squad for it, but it is on top of resources, and so there is the potential for nuking through that goon and starting to just chain mutinies on top of him if he doesn't keep his debt in order.
This awful market, I want to just talk a little bit about its placement right now. It's not hooked up onto any of Morgan's initial areas that he expanded into, which are the areas that Kanto has spied out. So this Offworld market under hologram, due to its location, is actually not in a spy. The only thing is it's decided to display itself as a second patent lab, so Kanto probably assuming something fishy's going on there.
Yeah, you'd be pretty suspicious about that one in particular. It's understandable wanting to get out of your aluminum mine, as it is 8 aluminum. It's not a whole lot going on there. It is, however, I think questionable not to try and add some additional production buildings to this as you throw it down, so that you can at least hide the fact that it is an advanced building there, and force your opponent to think a little bit more about whether or not he wants to drop a spy on that building.
Morgan is making an interesting claim right now. He's going for a geothermal vent with power at 32. I guess this is just some insurance in case power increases, since he's currently out of those wind turbines earlier.
Yeah, Morgan, I mean, he's picked up one geotherm much earlier to the southeast of himself. His iron is currently solar panels. I think he's just trying to set up some actual geothermal power, understanding that it's going to be important for him to have power production long term, and this will potentially let him rotate the rest of his tiles into more profitable things, just making sure that he's generating as many resources per tile as possible. All that said, while we've been talking about Morgan building this ridiculous Offworld, getting power online, it's just getting startlingly close to ending this game.
Right, we had questioned him not going into HQ5 earlier, but so far it doesn't seem to be hurting him. If he'd gone to HQ5 earlier, he may already have had the buy on Morgan, especially with this questionable Offworld that we've been talking about. Kanto has picked up a couple of decent patents: teleportation, slant drilling, cold fusion. Just, although cold fusion doesn't seem to be worth...
Seems unnecessary?
Yeah, it seems a little bit unnecessary, just driving the price of water up for Kanto. Morgan is going to force Kanto to defend himself, delaying the buy.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for Morgan. It buys him time, but I'm not sure buying time is going to be enough at this point. He does have the off-world market online. Once again, not as profitable as you usually would like to see. And Kanto, with quite a few researches and patents, looking very threatening.
The profits have increased to 36k for the food launch, which is what Morgan's launching right now, so it's gone from okay to decent money.
I do like, it looks like Kanto has found a resource he's comfortable sitting in this oxygen. I like the decision. It's going to be adding debt to Morgan this whole time, and on top of that, it's making these glass kilns significantly less profitable. Kanto goes ahead and sells out at this point. Would have liked to see a hacker array out of him as well. I think with a hacker array, he might have been able to close this game already, as hacks have been available to him throughout this game.
Right. Kanto does have a hologrammed goon farm over here. It's been hologrammed for a while. Been waiting to see him make a move with it. Perhaps he was initially thinking of going into an off-world, but decided that the prices weren't high enough.
That is always a possibility. And was that his patent lab location for a while?
No, the patent lab location was over on the south in this chain of electrolysis reactors.
Electrolysis reactors. He transitioned the reactor. Okay. I had seen that moving before, but I wasn't sure what was there previously. All right. Well, Morgan's got this idle patent lab, which is the worst kind of building at this phase of the game. You want everything to be as active as possible. Moving into additional farms despite this dust storm. It's consuming a lot of food with these launches, so it's understandable, but I don't know if it's going to work out. And on top of that, chems are kind of significantly better launch at the moment.
Yes, they are. Sometimes not only chems, but all the way at the bottom, electronics are within 1k of chems. And most people, including myself, when you're looking at the awful prices, your eyes don't go down that far.
No, you just kind of glance at the top 4, see what's best out of those, and go from there.
Usually, you know, the off-world belters prefer to have their food and oxygen over computers. Understandable.
Yeah, I can understand that for the most part. Morgan's gonna fall pretty fast to Kanto here. He's at the 100%. Red button comes up. That's going to be game number 1. I wasn't quite expecting that when the Expansive beat the Scavenger to HQ5, but Morgan clearly in too much debt to climb out. And with the questionable timing on the Offworld in particular. Let's Kanto go ahead and get to 5 to close the game out. I'm glad he did go ahead and take that upgrade at some point.
Yes, I don't foresee him making that upgrade at all. Making the buy at all without the upgrade.
Yeah, I was a little nervous, as we both pointed out. Might have been better to go ahead and get to 5 before focusing so much on stock. Might have been better to, usually it's considered better to go ahead and sell out of the stock once you've realized you can't get the majority, and go ahead and push yourself through your upgrades. Go ahead and invest in yourself at that point, then come back later for the kill. But
otherwise, that stock money's just sitting there unused. You could be investing it in the upgrade, you could be investing it in hacks, you could be using it to make more money. Once Morgan defended himself, maybe keep 1 or 2 pips in there just to keep some pressure, but sell out of the rest.
Exactly. Go ahead and reclaim that, do the investments. That said, Kanto still pulls on through. Morgan can't climb out of his debt hole, and we're going into game number 2 with a 1-0 lead on over to Kanto.
Yes, we are. Just before we do that really quick, that debt we were talking about, Morgan, he had 263k in interest charges. That a decision to ignore power as it kept on climbing by Morgan definitely came back to bite him at the end of that game.
Yeah, he didn't even buy that much power. That's the interesting part about it. He was maybe thinking, oh, power's cheap, I can get away with not buying it, or we'll go ahead and buying it for a significant period of time, not building some up. But the interest charges really started stacking up very, very quickly. And we can see oxygen was also a very, very serious problem for Morgan. He auto-purchased 52,000 of it. Life support really, really being quite difficult for Morgan to deal with this game.
A little bit surprising given how much water Morgan was on and expansive, having plenty of tiles to deal with life support.
Yeah, Morgan perhaps simply avoiding the reactor. I mean, when the reactors were down, they weren't connected to the base, which means that was forcing more auto-purchasing of life support. And we were looking, that was happening at a point where Morgan was already at that C bond rating. It's going to cause some pretty serious issues. And then that kind of combined with later in the game, fuel was very, very cheap. And so Morgan seemed to be avoiding the reactors because fuel was cheap, even though the oxygen level was just so ridiculously high.
Right. If you look at Morgan's perspective and you just hold down the new X key, it says a single farm only makes $3 a second. That's with the dust storm, I'm assuming. So it'll be higher once the dust storm ends in 5 seconds from now. But the electrolysis reactor, despite fuel only being 2, still 22.
Yeah. Just something to think about. And electrolysis reactors for Ich in particular were absolutely insane because he had those efficient oxygen technology upgrades. And that high oxygen was just getting in Morgan's way for a while. In particular, letting Kanto play with the oxygen was causing serious problems because it was getting in the way of Morgan's glass kilns as well as causing him life support problems. So just avoiding that market was problematic.
My last statement, as I was actually looking at Kanto's perspective, Morgan, if he holds on the X key, thinks that the electrolysis reactors are losing him money, which might explain why his hesitation to go into them.
Let me go ahead and glance. And yeah, and that's fair, but this is why I never look at those numbers in particular, is because when a resource is extremely valuable, it increases the value of the adjacency bonus you get for having 2 of that building.
Right.
So even if it looks like the building is initially losing money, which it would be, once the adjacency bonuses start kicking in, it can actually be making you a pretty serious profit. Right. And so it's something you got to watch out for.
Right. When unless you're Black Magic, you never put down a single building, so you have to multiply that adjacency bonus in your head and just say, okay, -6, well, it's at least going to make me like somewhere in the range of 10 to 25 per tile, and it'll cover my debt.
Yeah. And covering that, ensuring the glass kilns, and of course, in a 1v1 in particular, there's some extra value in diversification just because it locks your opponent out of playing with a resource too much if you're making it yourself.